where are you based, Gaby?
Right. So I'm from Ecuador. I was born and raised in Quito. Quito is the capital of Ecuador, and the Galapagos Islands are a part of Ecuador. They are the archipelago is located on the western side of the Pacific Ocean, America, and on the Pacific Ocean, just about like 1,000 kilometers away from Ecuador, is located the archipelago. I'm actually a doctor. I finished medical school a couple of years ago. Right now, I'm working towards my specialty. I'm studying at the moment. I'm studying while I'm working. So, but I have always been a travel lover. I absolutely love to travel, and I love adventure. So Galapagos is one of my favorite places on earth, and that's why I wanted to write this book.
Experience with IziMark Publishing and the book you authored.
When I first came in contact with Mark, which is the CEO of EasyMark Publishing, what really interested me was the idea of locals writing about their own countries, right? So it's pretty easy to say, okay, I'm going to write about somewhere I visited and how my experience was there. But it's not that easy to talk about where you have grown up, because it might have not only like the positive things, but also some negative things. But I think that's what makes these books very interesting, because you're not only going to focus on all of the good parts that are probably what are going to be like most talked about in other books, but you're also going to talk about some of the maybe dangerous aspects, what you have to be really careful about, how to not fall into tourist traps, right? So that's what I wanted to highlight in my series, which is Time to Travel to Ecuador and Time to Travel to the Galapagos Islands. And that's why I really wanted to work with Mark to have that possibility.
Yes, thank you so much for your efforts in both of those books. And is there anything new that you found out about your own country while writing and researching for the book?
Right, that's a great question. I found out about so many things that I had no idea about. You're like, oh yeah, I was born here, and you can visit these, you can visit that, but you're not like, oh my God, like this is literally a hidden gem in the middle of South America. We have everything. We have a coast, we have mountains, we have the Amazon basin, and we have the Galapagos Islands. So I was like, wow, I have so much to talk about. And
you mentioned maybe top 3 hidden gems that you would like tourists to visit.
Okay, so I'm gonna talk about just one quick spot in Santa Cruz, which I think is pretty awesome. So Santa Cruz is one of the most populated islands in Galapagos. You have to visit it. If you go to the Galapagos, you just have to visit Santa Cruz, because it's one of the biggest ones. And there's some lava tunnels there that I think everyone should visit, because they are literally lava tunnels, like underground where lava used to flow. You can go in there right now. There's no lava anymore, so you can visit it. And honestly, it's just so much. There are so many places that I don't want to give them away.
Okay, I guess people can find out about the other hidden parts of your beautiful country and the set of islands in the book.
Yes, for sure.
Maybe you can tell us about the top 5 beaches.
So Sierra Negra is the translation would be like the Black Mountain. That was actually it's actually an active volcano. Galapagos, all of the Galapagos Islands were formed by volcanoes, right? So the Galapagos archipelago is located on top of a hotspot, which means under it you have like magma that is hotter than usual. So you do have volcanic activity. In fact, the western side, the western islands are active right now. I think one of the last eruptions was in 2009 or something like that. So they are active. And the Sierra Negra volcano is located in the island of Isabela, the biggest island on the whole archipelago. And it's an amazing hike. I think it's something like 16 kilometers. And you're gonna literally walk on top of an active volcano. You're gonna see one of the biggest calderas in the world. So that means you have the volcano, and the volcano is what you're gonna see. So that's pretty much amazing. You're gonna go to another smaller volcano, which is called Volcán Chico. And from that point, you're gonna have a 360 view of the whole archipelago. So that hike, it's an amazing hike. It's not that hard. You don't have to be like an athlete to complete it. So that's an amazing hike. Yeah.
Manageable and very unique, I believe, in the view.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yellow landiguanas and pink landiguanas. So you could see any of those.
I'm actually like imagining under the beautiful imagery, though I don't see anything right now. I'm trying to imagine.
Right.
It looks really dangerous for tourists.
Okay, yes. So Galapagos is a cocoon inside of Ecuador, right? So whenever you think about Ecuador, you might be thinking, okay, it's a third world country, it's South America, maybe it's a little bit dangerous. Well, fortunately, Galapagos is the most safe place in Ecuador, like literally, as it is away from the main island, I mean the mainland, which would be Ecuador. You do have to take either a boat or a plane to get there. So, and it lives because of tourism, right? Like the main economical activity in Galapagos is tourism. So it is the most protected place, both by locals, by the police, by the military, everything. It is the most thing you should worry about is probably the sun. You are in the middle of the earth, like literally the equatorial line. You're in the middle of the earth, so you have to be very careful around the sun. You have to wear a lot of sunscreen because you are gonna get burned.
Okay.
And maybe not getting so close to the animals, because after all, they are animals, even though they are used to humans and tourists, and they are not bothered by your presence. If you bother them, they will react. So that's what you should be careful about. And maybe also, yes, absolutely, you have to be careful with some tourism companies. Galapagos can be an expensive place, so do your research first. Make sure that they are not like price, because maybe they're trying to rip you off.
They are budget friendly.
Absolutely. In fact, in my book, you can find a week, like an example of a week trip in Galapagos, and I divided it by budget. So you have a budget friendly option, you have like a mid budget option, and you have a very expensive one. So go check that out.
Tell us about some family friendly activities that will be fun for them to do when they are visiting.
A small walk to visit the giant tortoises in Santa Cruz or in San Cristobal, or whether it is a small swimming activity where you can snorkel. There are a lot of places where it is very safe for your children to swim, to learn how to interact with animals, with fish, because sometimes it can be scary, right? To just go swim and see a lot of fish swimming below you, you can get a little bit anxious and nervous. So there are a lot of places in Santa Cruz where you can go and get used to them. One of them would be Tintoreras Bay. That's a small spot in Isabela where you can just go and chill for a while.
Tintoreras
Tintoreras Bay? Yes, it's it's a really weird name. I don't even know if there's a translation for that.
Okay.
Yes, and really nice spot where you can go and visit. Also, if you're interested about science, if you want this family trip to be learning about the theory of evolution, which was created in the Galapagos Islands, where Charles Darwin saw all of these species and he thought, okay, something's going on here, and he thought about evolution. If you want to know and learn about that, there's a research island in the island of Santa Cruz, where you can learn about everything that Charles Darwin saw. So definitely go and visit, check that out.
Yeah, that one specifically for our science lovers. Which locations for couples to visit?
Underwater tunnels together, holding hands, right? Like supporting each other through the anxiety of going underwater and going through a tunnel together. I did that on March, and I think it's like a couple building activity, you know?
Yeah, sounds really special actually.
Yes, and of course, if you want any sort of romantic activity, Santa Cruz especially has a lot of nightlife. It has a lot of delicious restaurants where you can try things out. And yes, for sure.
And do you think it can be an okay version for a solo traveler to visit to
Oh, yes, for sure. Actually, when I was in March there last year, I met a guy who was solo traveling. He was from France. And he said this has been like the Galapagos Islands had been one of the most friendly places for a solo traveler, because they are so used to solo travelers that they are so yes, for sure, Galapagos is a great place for solo travelers. So fishing in Galapagos itself is kind of prohibited because as it is a marine reserve, you have to go outside of the marine reserve, fish there, and then come back. But there's
And are there some special dishes from your local cuisine that you will recommend tourists to try?
There's one famous fish that I ate while I was there, which is called the pez brujo, which means the witch fish, the witch fish. It's a delicious fish. I absolutely recommend you to try it out. You're also gonna be able to eat ceviche. Ecuadorian ceviche is a little bit different from the Peruvian one, but it's as delicious, and for sure you have to try that out.
Exciting. I definitely want to try this witch fish.
Witch fish.
There, you're gonna talk and share the experience you had with EasyMark Publishing in detail and about the process of the book, and perhaps why do you think this is the best book about Galapagos as a travel guide?
Working with EasyMark Publishing has been really great for me because of the openness I have felt with the team. While I was writing the book, I was able to talk to them, to reach out to them and say like, hey, I'm having a little bit of trouble with this part. How can I make it better? And they were always open to talk to me and everything. When I was working with the editor and I sent her like my first version, the finished version of the book, she was really open. She really liked the book, and she left little comments like in the document of the parts that she really liked, which was really helpful for me because I was able to make those better for the reader. And it's a great book about Galapagos because it includes, I think it has everything you would want to know, but more than that. Like it not only has what you have to visit, but it also has like a history of it, right? So in my book, in each chapter, you're going to be able to see the top 3 spots you want to visit, the most common tourist spots to visit, but also the geology of that island and the history of that island, and maybe a romantic story that happened in that island, right? Maybe a pirate story in that island. So it's not only about the tourist side, it's also about the social part. And I'm really like passionate about that because Galapagos is a little like groundbreaking, right? They're trying to do tourism without hurting the environment. So they're environmentally friendly. Yes. And they're also doing like ecotourism. It's based on the locals, how the locals have expanded their own little like entrepreneurships, like their own little startups, and how you can support that to keep making a Galapagos like a really tourist friendly site, but also to keep it preserved, right? Because the animals, the nature, the plants we have in Galapagos, we don't like, they don't exist anywhere else in the world, right?
Mhm.
So for example, the marine iguanas, you're not going to find another marine iguana in the world, only in those small islands on the middle of the South Pacific. So I think that's what's really amazing. And I also worked hard on the wildlife guide. You're gonna get a wildlife guide, so definitely check my book out. It's just one small book with a ton of information.
And maybe to sum up our conversation, we can do it with an interesting question. Can you tell us one thing that no one knows about Gabriela?
Like a huge animal lover. I absolutely love animals, even though I'm a doctor, like of people. I absolutely love animals. They are my passion. And one of my goals in life in the future is like to create a rescue center, an animal rescue center. And I would love to be able to do that in the future. And that is one of the reasons why I wanted to write this book, to work towards that, right? So that's a small thing nobody knows about me.
Well, we now know, and it's a great goal, I believe, to achieve not only for yourself, but for the.
Thank you.
And actually, there is one more question I want to ask. You spoke about eco-traveling and ecotourism, and in many countries, it's a new phenomenon, and in many countries, it's quite developed nowadays. So maybe you could share us, for foreigners, how can they find ways to eco-travel in Galapagos? Because I know that not all companies, not all the agencies organize eco-traveling tours. So is it like easy in terms of like getting the information and knowing how to do that?
That is a great question, actually. One of the islands that is not usually visited, you can visit it, but it is not usually included in some of the itineraries.
Yeah.
Is the island. So the island of Floriana, the main town there is called Puerto Velasco Ibarra. Puerto Velasco Ibarra is one of the first spots to create an ecotourism project, which is run by the community. And basically, this town was created, like it was colonized by a family group, and there's a whole story there. But this family group has stayed there through like maybe 100 years or so, and they have built this ecotourism from the ground. And this is one of the few spots where you can literally see how they have been progressing without damaging the environment. That's part of why it's called ecotourism, right? So these if you want to check this out, definitely think about Puerto Velasco Ibarra in the island of Floriana. Exactly, in the island of Floriana.
Quite a long name, but ecotourism, basically traveling without damaging the environment, I think is the future, and we need to
absolutely
spread the information out there as much as possible to maintain the beauties of the nature we have. And I believe your country has many of them, as beautifully you described some of the wonders there. Thank you so much, Gabriela. It was a pleasure talking to you. And specifically, I loved the way the visual descriptions you managed to give. Is like you almost transferred the feeling we can have there when we travel. Thank you so much. And maybe we can, you see, I always want to end the conversation and then another question comes up. I believe that last one.
It's okay.
You're a doctor, and it's like a pretty serious subject to be involved in, and then you decided to become an author, and maybe in not only one but two of the books authoring. And could you tell us what it gave you as a doctor or maybe as just a nature lover?
Actually, got in contact with EasyMark Publishing while I was doing here in Ecuador. We have to do like a social working year where we have to go to a rural area of the country and work there with people in need, with people who don't have easy access to medical health care. So I was like in the middle of nowhere in the northern part of Ecuador while I got in contact with EasyMark Publishing and I started writing the books. So I think I got to write it from a different perspective, not as someone who is living in the city and hasn't really gotten a chance to go to the rural areas of your country and visit them and see how life is there. I got to write it from the point of view, right, like in the middle of a small town in the province of Carchi. It was called Juan Montalvo, and I think that gave me a different perspective, which allowed me to work on the book, not only from a tourist side, but also from the social side, as I was saying before. Yeah. So yeah.
Hey, Gaby, thank you very much. Be out soon. Mark will edit it as well. Have a nice day.
Thank you so much, Lily.
If you want to take part, just remember to like, subscribe, and let us know what country you would like to hear about in our upcoming interviews with EasyMark Publishing. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe and see you soon.